All right, here we go. An Amal carburettor from it's 71 years old, so it's from the 50s. It's an AJS single 350cc. Man brought it to me because it leaked fuel everywhere. Now, it's actually in really good order. It had been rebuilt recently, but still leaked. So first thing I found was that actually the needle jet was deformed. It's got a rubber tip. That's what stops the flow of fuel. And it was deformed, so I replaced that, thinking that that was going to be the main thing. His main sort of what he said to me was that it was when he added fuel to is that it would literally flow out of the top of the tickler as you start, prime it for starting. So that meant that the fuel flow was not getting stopped by the float, which you can see here. So I replaced, and it was deformed the tip, which sits inside and actually stops the flow. So luckily, I've got a guy around the corner, beautiful guy Peter at Shout out to Mersey Motorcycles, who deals in these very old carburetors, and I bought a new float needle. So that's gone in, and that's me demonstrating that when the float rises, it does in fact stop the flow of fuel. So that's better than it was. However, when I put it back together and added fuel again, I was finding that the float itself was binding. So that rises up. When I add fuel, as I am now, the float rises up. That pushes the rubber tip into the orifice, and that will stop the flow of fuel. Now, that wasn't happening. Um, I gave it a little tap there, and it stopped, it unbound the float and therefore stopped the flow. So this is kind of like a secondary problem now, is that the float is binding slightly and not necessarily stopping the flow every time and therefore creating the overflow. Now, that's it sitting with a body of fuel above it. There's no tap, as you can see, and it is not leaking. The float's doing its job. It's risen up and pushed the needle jet, pushed the little needle, the rubber needle, into the orifice and stopped the flow. That was the tickler there, so that is working as we need it. Um, However, that's leaving out a brass shim, so that was pushing against the outer case here, and that was stopping your bowl from really seating properly. It was kind of binding it when the fuel would fill up the bowl. So we'll take it apart again and have a little look. I've shaved very ever so slightly the side of that shim, and also took away a little bit. You can see there on the outside of the cork had raised on your gasket. So just clean that up a little bit, and just made sure that that bowl that float can freely move with the rising fuel, that it can freely unbound, rise up and close off your stem, and that's it sort of doing that. So that's once again a body of fuel leading down into the carburettor. That's the tickler allowing the prime amount to come through. But as it sits, we seem to have fixed the problem, and I'm happy with that. Other people's triumphs.